Hello, traders. Hello, everyone. Welcome in the advanced room here at Live Education with Exam, and welcome to this particularly important session where we discuss fundamental background. Of course, every session is important, but this one discusses the fundamental background that can be used by traders of actually all techniques, all strategies, can potentially benefit from understanding a little bit of market biases that come from the out of the chart factors. And I'm here with Rafi to talk about fundamental things, fundamental factors that have been pushing price this week and well likely push the market next week. And I'm very much looking forward to hear your thoughts, Rafi. Hello, how are you doing? How have you been this week? It's been busy, right?
Yeah, hi, hello, Martin. Hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, it's been a pretty exciting week. We had, of course, the US elections, quite a bit of volatility in the aftermath. Nothing too, I guess, bad in terms of price movements. Of course, we're going to be discussing all the main movers, quite a few of them. We also had the Fed decision yesterday, and we've got a fairly important week coming up next week because we've got the US CPI report. So once again, it is all about the US dollar. It is all about the American economy. Um, but of course, that does have huge implications on what happens to gold prices. And we're seeing other few select currencies struggling as a result of the dollar once again making advances. Fairly good week for the US stock market as well. So yeah, it's indeed been a pretty I guess one of the most exciting, one of the most significant weeks, I guess, as well from politically. This does mean we're once again dealing with President Trump as the president of the United States. So what is that going to mean for not just economic policy next year, but for the whole world? So yeah, it's pretty sequential week, I guess it's safe to
Are
say.
you one of those persons who have been awakened the whole night when presidential elections in US were taking place and or not, or you just waking up in the
Yeah, no,
morning and
actually I was kind of going with the polls because the polls were very tight. They were neck and neck. So I kind of assumed that we're not going to know the results straight away. So I thought at the earliest, maybe Wednesday evening GMT time, we might have a clear result. So when I woke up on Wednesday morning and I saw that President Trump is just he's only 24 electoral seats away from being confirmed as the next president. I was quite shocked. So I knew at that moment that it was kind of all over for Kamala Harris. And what was kind of surprising for me is the media initially were kind of subdued. They weren't going. Oh, this is what a shock, President Trump. So soon, with the count in the counting, is already kind of on course to become the president. They were kind
and
of
what was interesting for me, I woke up the same morning and I was like, well, Pennsylvania gonna decide. Like there was this idea that Pennsylvania gonna decide the race, but I've I've noticed that Trump was leading also Georgia, North Carolina, which wasn't that surprising, but then Wisconsin and Michigan, where I was thinking Democrats are more likely to get ahead, right? So and like even without Pennsylvania, Harris had chances to win, but despite having Wisconsin and Michigan, she would have needed either North Carolina or Georgia. And actually, she was losing all those four states. Of course, not all votes have been counted yet at that time, but she was also like, it was very even in Arizona, if I remember correctly. But it seemed like she's losing everywhere. and then in Pennsylvania, right? Like results from Pennsylvania came quite fast because we've been having like 92% of votes counted like early Europe afternoon or noon. So before U.S. session commenced, we've already had good idea that statistically it's very unlikely to overturn the result. Like that Kamala Harris out of a sudden gonna catch up. So yeah, it's that was quite a margin, right? Like some commenters have been saying, well, polls have been wrong again, and there's a pattern, right? I mean, because I was thinking from the polls and from the fact that battleground states were mixed, right? Some battleground states were like usually Republican, but last time they voted for Democrat, or usually Democrat, last time voted for Republican. So it was like it was kind of like mixed picture, right? But
Yeah,
then Trump wins by quite a margin if we think about all the elections, like
yeah, and
margin
that's
was
the
much
biggest shock
narrower.
for me. That's the biggest shock, not that Trump won, but the fact that it wasn't even close. In the end, it wasn't the close race that all the polls were portraying. That actually Trump won with a landslide. And the other, of course, surprise was the fact that. Okay, we knew there was a chance there could be Republican sweep. We knew in advance that a Republican sweep of Congress was far more likely than a Democrat sweep. We knew that blue sweep was, very, very unlikely. But yeah, it looks like, well, we know for sure that the Republicans have control of the Senate. They regained control from the Democrats, and probably hasn't been confirmed, but probably they will also have control of the House. Now, there's still a chance, a small chance, the Democrats might retain, or not retain, but they might get control of the House from the Republicans. A very small chance, but most likely that's not going to happen. And yeah, basically, yeah, if we've got a Republican president and a Republican controlled Congress, I think we can be sure there's going to be big tax cuts. Potentially, there's going to be big spending cuts as well, because usually, if the Republicans are trying to push through tax cuts, the compromise they end up making with the Democrats is that okay, we'll keep spending here and there to keep them happy. So spending cuts are usually less severe when they have to get a deal with the Democrats. But if they don't need the support of the Democrats, they can push through both tax cuts and spending cuts. So that kind of makes it a little bit uncertain in terms of how it's going to impact growth, because yes, you're cutting taxes, but if you're also slashing spending, the impact, the boost to the economy isn't going to be quite so great. But on the other hand, it would be good news for the US deficit. So it's kind of a mixed picture in terms of the economic impact. But I think we can be sure that we're probably headed for China trade war 2.0. For now, markets are kind of ignoring those risks. They're just focusing on the immediate impact in terms of tax cuts, or not just that, but less regulation under the republic, with the Republican controlled Congress. So that's good for stocks. That's good for cryptocurrencies. And yeah, we saw those huge moves, pretty much straight away.
Well, yeah, that would explain quite a lot. That would explain why dollar was very strong and why yields have been going up. That wasn't risk off situation, not necessarily. That was looking more like relief, more like dollar on kind of relief. Stock market was going up, exactly as you said. Bitcoin. What was very interesting, I mean, it's not like it wasn't predictable, because like things are hardly predictable on the market, but this time they weren't that hard to predict that Europe gonna be hammered. Euro USD went down 250 pips on that day. Um, like that wasn't the largest day ever, but in 2023 we had one day like that. We had one day like 248 or something like this. Um, so it's kind of like once a year day. 288 we've been seeing in 2022. We had like few more days above 200, but not like 2022. That was the year of Russia-Ukraine war and energy crisis in Europe. But 240 we didn't have. So yeah, it's kind of like once a year, right? So that was actually big event. Now euro dollar, like, market is thinking, what should we do now about that? Like okay, yesterday a pullback, but right now we are pulling back from the pullback, so it's like kind of like trying to calm down. The market is trying to calm down after all of this, but it's bad for Europe, isn't it? I mean, how
Yeah.
bad it is. Like Trump said right before elections, said something like European Union is almost as bad as China, and he gonna put 200% tariffs on European Union. That sounds like a trade war, not only with China. That sounds like a trade war with pretty much main partners as well. And I'm hearing that, you know, spending gonna be, of course, Republicans are usually like smaller government, smaller budget, which um, essentially means that okay, we are spending, but not so much as Democrats would have been spending, right? But still spending gigantic amounts. I've been hearing opinions that, um, let's say, quite viable opinions, in a sense of like they were also economists, saying that whether Trump or Harris, they're gonna spend just slightly different channels, but they're gonna spend a lot. No austerity coming, still huge deficit coming. I understand you have somewhat opposing view to that. Um, yeah, what do you think, and how bad it all is for Europe?
Yeah, and you're right about, in terms of trade war, because of course, Trump has issues with the European Union in terms of supposedly, European countries having unfair advantages in certain sectors. Um, and I guess we know just the fact that, in his election campaign, he was thinking of 10% across the board higher tariffs for all imports coming into the US, and then 60% or higher from those coming from China. Okay, so you could argue that this is a negotiating tactic, and we kind of saw this, when he first became president in 2016 to 2020, that he kind of, makes a lot of noise. He's very loud, and then he does back down. He really tries to basically, get his message across, and using as a negotiating tool to kind of get the other side to make compromises. So probably I don't think we're going to get anything too drastic, but of course, yeah, that's the thing with Donald Trump, because he's so unpredictable. Is he actually, going to be more moderate or less moderate than last time? Most likely, he's probably going to want to do things more his way this time around, because first time around he was kind of, maybe listening to advice more, listening to, what others are trying to tell him, that you shouldn't do this to your allies or things like that. This time around it's going to be, especially now that he's got a clear mandate from voters, because aside from what we mentioned in terms of getting control of Congress, winning with a large margin, he also got the popular vote, because the last time he didn't get the popular vote. Hillary Clinton got, I think, about 1 million or maybe a bit more votes than Donald Trump. This
He
time,
won
I
with
think he's got,
electoral votes, right? And
yeah.
yeah,
So in terms of total votes from the public, I think he's 4 million votes ahead of Kamala Harris, which is, pretty significant. So I think now he's basically been given a clear mandate by the voters. He's going to say, I don't have to listen to anyone. I can do whatever I want. That's the biggest fear. And I think because because the European economy is already so weak. It's got already, a lot of issues, whether it's high deficits, whether it's, Chinese economy struggling. So that's not helping European exporters, particularly Germany.